Good evening. This is Eswatini TV News at 8, brought to you by myself, Notile Sitole, alongside Zamanzi Manze. First up, let's have a look at our top stories. The Deputy Prime Minister says the girl child should not be left behind when the kingdom advances technologically. On another note, the Deputy Prime Minister says natural disasters that hit the kingdom have made government to prepare adaptation and mitigation plans and also to improve her response. The Minister for Education has challenged head teachers, chairpersons of school committees and parents to engage pupils who lead riots at school. The Deputy Prime Minister Tim Masuku says the Kingdom of Eswatini has advanced in reducing the number of people affected by disasters. Masuku says the International Disaster Reduction Day serves as a reminder for countries that they need their policies to be strengthened. The DPM was speaking during the celebration of this day at the Hilton Garden Hotel in Babani.
The theme for this year is international cooperation for developing countries to reduce their disaster risk and disaster losses. When addressing the meeting, the Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku says this day seeks to raise global awareness about policies related to disaster risk management.
The theme of this year's commemoration seeks to raise global awareness about effective cooperation actions, policies and practices that need to be either taken or strengthened in order to reduce exposure and vulnerability to disaster risks at community level and thereby contributing to saving lives, livelihoods, and ensuring economic and environmental sustainability. I am therefore pleased to acknowledge the effort that the Kingdom of Eswatini has applied in investing time and resources in strengthening the national bilateral and multilateral cooperation agreements to advance the national disaster risk management and development agenda.
The Deputy Prime Minister also launched the Tropical Cyclone Readiness Plan for Eswatini. The National Disaster Management Agency's Chief Executive Officer Russell Dlamini stated that the Tropical Cyclone Readiness Plan was compiled with the assistance from the United Nations Eswatini. The DPM further thanked development partners who continue to assist the Kingdom of Eswatini. Reporting, I am Sondomlangin with LinkedIn Gule in Babane.
The Deputy Prime Minister Tim Masuku has challenged the girl child to consider innovation and digital-related studies. Masuku was speaking during the commemoration of the International Day of the Girl Child on Wednesday, held at the Royal Villa.
Every 11th of October, member states celebrate the International Day of the Girl Child. The Kingdom of Eswatini commemorated this day on the 13th of October. This year, the day is themed Digital Generation, Our Generation. Speaking during the commemoration, the Deputy Prime Minister Themba Masuku said to close the digital divide, it calls for support from various organizations.
I take this opportunity to encourage girls and women to uptake opportunities such as digital studies, training, and scholarship aimed at equipping them with digital skills, as the digital agenda is the new norm. To everyone present, let us continue and support women and girls in the digital era.
Speaking on behalf of the girl child, Nobuhle Nhlabati shared some of the challenges faced by the girl child in Eswatini.
Most of girls have been found pregnant and most of them have been found having HIV, and most of these cases are results because of COVID-19. These days, young children don't go to school because of these critical days we're facing. I will say the introduction of IT and the lack of skills as young women we have on IT. It's another result of these situations we're facing.
The United Nations Resident Coordinator in Eswatini, Natal Ndongose, placed the UN's continued support to the country's girls' empowerment programs. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samgal Suekoza with Fuminko Sinsinisa and Temgosi Mavimbela Eswatini.
Minister of Education and Training Lady Howard says head teachers and school committee chairpersons should engage parents of pupils who are ringleaders in the violence in schools. Howard says the ringleaders are known to some schools. The minister has said this in Manzini during a meeting with head teachers and school committee chairpersons about solutions to the ongoing violence in schools.
Schools opened on Monday nationally. However, in less than 3 days, some have already shut down. Minister of Education and Training Lady Howard has met with head teachers and school committee chairpersons to find solutions that will ensure a safe reopening of schools. Head teachers and school committee chairpersons made their submissions during the meeting.
We're trying to deal with an education issue now, but if we were to be truthful, it's not an education issue.
So, in the presence of Indungu, ngicela abatali siphume nesolution. Njengoba abantwana i-exam imile. Sesikutholile bonke lesifunako labantwana. Do you want them to be the maids, to be the maid servants, to be gardeners for the rest of their lives? Leli kusasa ke labantwana limephi. Bathi lokho umsebenzi wethu to worry about wena bisathi ngulu. Asukume chairperson athi badala siyavuma umphathi lathi badala ke Dingulube ka 2016 babuyele bantwana esikoleni ngoba kude labakhala ngabo bathi badala khaba ngabuyele babuye abantwana ndawo ilunga ayineclass ninga ubanga umsindo bathi ngeke sithule ngoba kahle kahle lele sifuna kwagendela
ngizamile bika badala ngikutholile ngithole ukuthi vele sesihlukene ekhaya sibadala. So lento ayisasiyo ke ukuthi singayilungisa sibiko seyifuna nduna sale ibukwa live lena ayisasiyo vele ibiko ngikusho ukuqonze lokuthi lena seyiphumile
ungathanga nebadala nenkulu komini nabo tishela kakhulu utholakala phambili khamba liqiniso liphelele lethi vele leti khalo kafanana.
Minister Howard says head teachers should engage parents of known ringleaders of this violence.
Ngoba practically nawuthi uyabuka labangeke babhale nje nyana. Sibathisa bafaka next year. Lo grade 1 stamfaka kanje. It is very unfortunate ukuthi sibathale sebabambisene nabantwana konke lokho. Kuyajabulisa kakhulu ngoba angathi noma abatali bayakubona yini ukuthi bayabaqinisa labantu babo. Ngoba ngithatha ukuthi nabo labo batali banikezwe lithuba ebuntwaneni babo bekuthi bahambe esikolweni kuze batokhona kuba bantu empilweni.
At the time report, the minister and school authorities were still in a meeting forging a way forward. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosi Mavimbela, Manzini.
The shortage of teachers and other vital people in the education chain will be a thing of the past. This is so because Cabinet has approved the hiring of head teachers and filling of other vital positions in the education chain. This has been confirmed by the Minister of Public Service, Mabulala Masego, on Wednesday.
The shortage of head teachers and other vital personnel in the education chain may have undesired effects on the learning process. Some schools have cried out about this and prayed for government to do something about it. Minister of Public Service, Mabulala Masego, has finally delivered the good news. Cabinet has approved the filling of certain positions in schools.
Lokho kwekwendulela ikokini umkhani utawuhamba wesikolweni itolo nje bekubusiswa ngokuthi ke cha sebangaqasha labo head teacher kuyovala leti khala letikhona esikolweni ngaba ama primary ngaba ama high schools ma colleges for REO sitawudibana tonke leto tikhala icabinet iko approve le itolo sengisho ukuthi ke uhulumende uyathetha amataba ukuthi le environment ayibe conducive. Kepha ke lengakubeka vele engakufihli kuye kube imali challenge. Ukhange ukuthi le mali ayikho kahle vele. Bekunene nonke ngobufakazi. Livele ishile lasha embikweni. Kusho ukuthi ke uhulumende kusho ukuthi ke uncane lokutawungena ngoba bantu bebangavukele emsebenzini sebahlele emakhaya. Ingaphandle betivalile lokusho ukuthi ke imithelo lefanele ngayiya kuhulumende itawunika.
The minister has not stated when the positions will be filled. Some schools have in the past stated that they have no substantive head teachers and deputies. Others have come out in the open to share that they have no science teachers. For Eswatini TV News, Temgosima Vimbela, Manzini.
The implementation of the Rural Electrification Access Fund will assist the country in achieving universal access to electricity by 2030. This has been said by the Minister of Natural Resources and Energy, Peter Bembe, during a progress report meeting on the fund with the Ministry's Portfolio Committee in the House of Assembly on Wednesday at the Hilton Garden Inn.
Rural Electrification Access Fund regulations by the House of Assembly. On Wednesday, the Minister of Natural Resources and Energy, Peter Bembe, had a meeting with the Ministry's Portfolio Committee at the House of Assembly to give progress report of the fund. The Minister says the establishment of the fund will go a long way in assisting the country to achieve universal access to electricity.
The establishment and operationalization of the Rural Electrification Access Fund will go a long way in assisting the country achieve universal access to electricity by the year 2030. The fund will also assist with the installation of solar water pumping systems for community boreholes to alleviate the burden of electricity costs.
Chairperson of the Portfolio Committee, Robert Magongo, applauded the ministry on the establishment of the fund.
Lapha nje minister sicela kushaya mabhodlela ngiyabona uphenzi ubona umsindo eParliament bakuhlupha abantu bahlonishwa nakule sikubona.
Secretary of the Select Committee on Rural Electrification, Tabile Nkosi, laid down some of the fund's objectives.
Lama regulations bekathi teke le mali lebese ikwelekile lebese accumulated since 2017 ufuna ivulelwe a special account of which that has happened. The special account has been opened at Central Bank of Eswatini, and nale mali has then been moved from lebe labe hlala khona ka Esera to that special account. Say nje a Central Bank, and as at April 2021 le mali be 64 million emalangeni.
Currently, 3,266 households from 3 regions will benefit from the fund. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samkel Suyokoza with Fumiko Sinsinisa Babane.
The Minister for Agriculture, Jabulani Mabuza, says the Taiwan Africa Vegetable Initiative will complement other programs that will fight malnutrition and hunger, especially among children. Mabuza says the initiative will also expand the milk and seed gene bank. Mabuza was speaking during the TAVI launch.
The Taiwan Africa Vegetable Initiative is working towards safeguarding vegetables biodiversity for food and nutrition security in Africa. The Minister for Agriculture, Jabulani Mabuza, says the Vegetable Initiative will give the ministry an opportunity to explore conservation.
And it is therefore clear that TAVI echoes my ministry's strategic plan 2018-2023, which seeks to optimize utilization of agricultural resources to create wealth for Eswatini and to transform agriculture into a modernized, sustainable, diversified production and export-oriented sector that contributes to improved food security, export revenue generation, job creation, and overall economic development.
The Minister for Education was represented by the Principal Secretary in the Ministry of Education, Bertram Stewart, says the Ministry of Education supports the program.
We really appreciate as a ministry what is happening now, and we do hope that this will be successful, and we are fully going to support it. We have noticed that though some of the children, the only meal that they get is the one that they get at school, the only nutritious, balanced meal. And at home, it's chaos. They cannot get enough food. So if we blend whatever we supply at schools with what is homegrown as well, we do hope that the diet will be balanced, Honorable Minister, and will achieve healthy citizens.
The Taiwanese ambassador's representative, Oliver Han, says that the program will ensure food security in the country.
Half of a population of sub-Saharan African lives in extreme poverty. This creates conditions of food and nutrition insecurity.
The regional director for the World Vegetable Center in the Eastern and Southern Africa, Dr. Gabriel Ruhalema, says the center's objective is to transform the kingdom. The initiative is expected to commence this year and end in 2023. For Eswatini, TV News on Domlangen with Linton Gule in Matapa.
The Ministry of Education and Training has launched the first national open and distance learning policy. The policy was launched by the Minister of Education and Training, Lady Howard, who was represented by the Principal Secretary in the Ministry, Bertram Stewart, in an event held at the Happy Valley Hotel on Wednesday.
The Commonwealth of Learning provided assistance to develop the Eswatini's National Open and Distance Learning Policy and was approved by the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini in 2019. Speaking during the launch of the policy, the Minister of Education and Training, Lady Howard, represented by the Principal Secretary in the Ministry, Bertram Stewart, says the policy will help improve the country's distance learning program, especially now that the country is facing the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic.
Among these measures were the requirements for social distancing and for the temporary closure of educational institutions for in-person learning or class attendance. The Ministry of Education and Training had to create more distance learning opportunities locally in order to enable our students to complete the 2019-2020 academic year at the different levels of academic attainment. The pandemic was not anticipated, and as such, nobody was prepared for its profound impact on the then current education system. For students around this country, classroom learning became distance learning so that teachers could still provide some continuity for their students.
The minister, through the PS, also challenged network providers to support the ministry in providing lessons using different forms of learning.
I would like to challenge our partners in service provision such as MTN, Eswatini Electricity Company, Eswatini Mobile, Eswatini Post and Telecommunications and others to be alive to the fact that pre-COVID-19 on-site connectivity used to be simple. This is because schools and home technology infrastructure made it happen like magic. But now the COVID-19 has required that many more teachers and students move to a distance learning model. Connectivity has become more complicated and yet more critical. After all, without connectivity, distance learning becomes difficult at any level.
The Commonwealth of Learning reports that in the African region, there's a 60% participation rate in higher education, which calls for policymakers to leverage information and communication technologies. Reporting for Eswatini TV News, I'm Samkal Suekoza with Fuminko Sinsinisa Zulwini.
Galanga Seed Storage Bank was launched today by the Ministry of Agriculture. The director, Nelson Mavuso, said the seeds at this bank have proven to withstand climate change. Our reporter, Tembelihle Makujwa, has the latest.
The Ministry of Agriculture, in collaboration with other stakeholders, launched a storage facility that will preserve indigenous seeds so that the generations to come can have a clear understanding of indigenous crops that are nutritious and healthy to be consumed by a Maswati. These crops are also drought resistant.
Right here behind me is sorghum, especially the traditional varieties, not the ones that we buy from the seed companies. And some accessions of cowpeas. These are cowpeas that came from research for testing for local adaptation, where the farmers were participating in the participatory research selecting the particular traits that are of interest to them, and also picking up on those varieties that show to have the adaptability to their local conditions.
COSPER's agriculture technician Zamama Zia says about 100,000 Malangeni was used by the organization in the establishment of the facility.
To some kind of capacity building for them to, as an experiment, to check those seed varieties that are more adaptable to the local conditions, so that they can be able to avert the risk of no yield at all.
Lokomolweni constituency headman Pindile Shongwe explained how the seed bank will play a vital role in improving the livelihood of the people under the constituency.
Sizathu indzawo yakalanga njengoba sisho ukuthi kukalanga kushisa kakhulu and akusito tonke tinhlanyelo letivuma kulendzawo le. Siyabonga nje kakhulu iCOSPI ukuthi asicabangele siyindzawo yakalanga lokuthi asilethele nathi tinhlanyelo letitawuvuma la ndzaweni.
The seeds at Kalanga Seed Bank have been tested and have proven to withstand the erratic weather conditions. Reporting I am Tembeli Hlema Kuchwa with Temba Shabangu at Kalanga.
And now we'll have a look at our financial markets.
Standard Bank. It can be.
Good evening once again. You are still watching Eswatini TV. Let's have a look at our sports news. Eswatini Rugby Union Public Relations Officer Pumlile Gumete says the association wants to improve the standard and level of expertise of local coaches. Gumete has no doubt that the recent coaches workshop will also have a positive impact on both local rugby and national team Sizeze. Gumete was speaking to Eswatini TV Sports in Babani.
Trying to improve and develop rugby in the country, Eswatini Rugby Union has found it fit. According to the Rugby Union Communications Officer Pumlile Gumete, the recent training of coaches will have a huge impact on the performance of local rugby teams, most importantly the national team Sizeze.
This workshop is going to take us a few steps forward in trying to establish the union's plan to get rugby going again in the country. And with this workshop, we are sure that the coach, with all the work that has been done, is going to be able to get a coaching team that is going to help in gathering a squad that will be able to go and compete in an international tournament that is going to be held in Mauritius in January 2022.
The recent workshop that was conducted this past weekend was attended by over 10 coaches and were capacitated by the national team coach Steve Reynolds. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Babane.
Selby Simelane, who is a tennis coach and development officer from Shiseleni, says there are about 150 young talented tennis players looking to take the sport to new heights. Simelane says his biggest challenge at the moment is the shortage of tennis equipment for the players and the lack of transport for him to be able to travel within the Shiseleni region to be able to develop the players. Simelane was speaking to Eswatini TV Sports at Lobamba.
Eswatini Tennis Association has in its ambition to try and reach different regions of the country. In trying so, the Shiseleni region at the moment is faced with a big challenge of not having proper facilities, transport and equipment for the sport.
Manager kakhulu lenda sengikhala nge-transport kokucala nale equipment which is amabhola nema-racket, transport ama-racket amabhola, and then
Selby Simelane, who is a coach and a development officer in Shiseleni, says at the moment he has about 150 young talented tennis players looking to explore their options in tennis. Simelane says for now one of his biggest challenges is of transport as he fails to reach different parts of the region. Simelane also detailed that he does not have enough equipment, judged on the number of players looking to practice the sport.
Sibakhona kufunza enenyalo nje la ngikhona kuyoqala khona abantwana laba lengibe nabo it's about 150 lokhu ngahlathi nalama ema centers but within yena hlathi khulu.
In response, according to the Eswatini Tennis Association, they are aware of the problem in Shiselweni. The association has pleaded with the Shiselweni team to try and be patient while they are working on the equipment issue. The association concluded urging the team to use the facility in Hlatsi whenever hosting a specific tournament for the time being. For Eswatini TV Sports, Fabrice Msonera, Lobamba.
That's all for now. Before we conclude, let's have a look at our top stories. The Deputy Prime Minister says the girl child should not be left behind when the kingdom advances technologically. On another note, the Deputy Prime Minister says natural disasters that hit the kingdom have made government to prepare adaptation and mitigation plans and also to improve her response. The Minister for Education has challenged head teachers, chairpersons of school committees and parents to engage pupils who lead riots at school. And with that, we sum up our bulletin for the evening. Up next is the update from myself and the crew. Thank you for your company. Have a good night.